Hello. Before getting into this episode, I just wanted to speak about fear. Yesterday was Monday, and before editing the episode that you're listening to right now, something that came up in the morning was the thoughts of fear and how sometimes I get nervous about doing the things that I want to do, like Gravitated Arts or writing or doing a podcast episode. And I wanted to speak about this because maybe you, the listener, have something that you want to do, but you get nervous or you get fearful. And I guess I can't really tell you that the fear will go away, but I can tell you that you should still face what you want to do and you shouldn't let the fear hold you back. I think sometimes fear is just the world around you trying to stop you from doing what you should be doing. And you should never allow it to control you. You should be able to have the strength and courage to go through with what it is that you want to do. For example, I want to do this podcast, and I'm not going to let the fear stop me. And even on the mornings that I may not feel happy or I may not feel like I want to do it, I'll still pray about it and somehow find a way to get up and do it. And sometimes you're going to listen to some episodes and my voice may sound like I'm not really into it. And I guess, again, that's like the fear thing and the whole mindset thing. Like sometimes the mind plays so many games on us, tries to pull us away from things that we should be doing. And you'll see that in some of the episodes. Like these first few episodes of Journaley I actually pre-recorded back in July. And so what you're going to be listening to today is from July. And you can hear in some parts where my voice is lower, some parts I'm happier, and it's just, I guess, going through that phase of growing and getting used to doing what I'm doing now. But again, whatever it is you want to do, don't let fear get in the way of it, and push through. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, good day, whatever time it may be to you. Thank you for pressing play on my podcast. This is Gravitated Arts, the podcast. My name is David Alir. I put out both names because some people know me as David, some people know me as Alir. And like just last weekend, I was actually at my cousin's house, my brother's house, sorry, and his daughter, she calls me David Alir. And I was just like, oh, that's really cool. Like she didn't just call me one name, she called me both names. And so I thought to myself, what if on my podcast I could just call myself what she calls me, David Alir? And the reason I'm doing this is because obviously, as I said, some people know me as David, other people know me as Alir. So I'm just going to go with both names, David Alir. Thank you to little Duk, my niece, who inspired that. And let's get into it. So today I'm going to be speaking, this is a Journaley episode. This isn't an interview. And Journaley, as I said in the last episode, the first introduction, Journaley is journey and journal put together. And so it's about topics that I write about or just something that comes to mind that I want to speak about and then relating it to my journey. And so putting them both together and you get Journaley. Today, the topic I wanted to discuss is stealing. Now, it's weird to bring that as a topic to discuss, but the reason I wanted to discuss it is because in life, I guess, sometimes it's very easy. I look at stealing as like a shortcut, you know? You want something, so how are you going to get it? You're going to steal it. And in life, shortcuts don't really get you far. And it's much more better to work for what's yours. And so that's why I wanted to speak about stealing. You know, growing up, I didn't obviously know what I know now. And so I stole. And I remember the first time I stole and got caught. It was in year 1. I stole $10. And I remember the day clearly. Like, I can look back in my mind and like play it all out again. But the teacher, I'm going to leave names out of it, but the teacher, what would happen in year one is like, you could bring in money to school, and say you wanted to get tuck shop at lunchtime, you'd give the money to the teacher, and the teacher would hold on to it for you, and then at lunch she'd give it back to you. And I remember this day there was $10 on her desk, and I thought to myself, how nice would it be to have tuck shop? I'd never had tuck shop before, and so I thought, I'll get that $10 and then I'll go get myself some tuck shop. Little did I know that I'd be caught that day, and I ended up being caught, and it was really embarrassing, and it was really embarrassing because it was like, I don't know, like, I guess for anyone who's been through it, it's not something you want to be caught in, and like in front of all your friends as well. Like, I remember just after it happened, like I cried like throughout that whole day. I was put in the naughty corner, and so in my naughty corner on the mat, I was just crying the whole time. And I even remember one of my favorite teachers. She was in the older grade, but she was one of my favorite teachers. She came up that day to the classroom, and then she was informed of what happened. And then I remember I had my head in my lap, and I was just crying. And I remember just hearing the other teacher telling her what happened. It made me cry more, because it was like, that's someone that inspired me, and I guess I let them down, so that was embarrassing. But to go back to stealing, like that whole event, that was the first time I ever got caught. The last time I ever got caught was a Friday night in 2016. It's currently 2022, and the date is the 19th of July. So that's, I hate maths. It's 2022, 2021, 2019, 18, 17, 16. 6 years ago, I think, if I'm right. I don't know my maths. But about 6 years ago, on a Friday night in 2016, February, was the last time I stole. And it was from my mum. Now, again, I remember the day clearly. It was a Friday afternoon, and we were driving home. I was driving at this time. I think I was on my learners, and so I was driving, and I drove us home. Actually, no, I take that back. I wasn't on my learners, but she was driving, and we got home, and she had money on her, and she put it in the center console. And I remember after she went inside, I was in the car. Well, I remembered, obviously, where the money was. So I went in, and then I went back to the car, and I took out $100 from her money. And then I went inside and I hid it. About an hour later, I was playing video games on the couch. My mom just came up to me, and she's like, my money went missing. Do you know where it is? And I was like, no, I don't. And then she said, okay. And obviously, me being me, I thought nobody knew. And she knew that I had it, but she didn't jump at me or anything like that. It was really weird how she reacted. But like, she came back about 10 minutes later, and she asked again, and she's like, are you sure you haven't seen it? I was like, yeah, I'm sure. And I was like, I can help you look for it. And it was really, again, this is weird, because like, I know I took it, but I believe she doesn't know. And so I'm going to pretend that I don't know. And how I do that is by helping her look for it. And again, it was lying, and it was just not something that I should have been doing, but I was trying to help her look for it. And then I was like, oh, I can't find it, And I went back to video games, and then she kept coming backwards and forwards. And later that night, around about 7 p.m., I needed to go to basketball, to go watch basketball on a Friday night, the school competition. And so I went to my mom and I asked her, could you drop me to basketball? And she said, okay. I lived in Glenville at that time, and there was a McDonald's near Clifford Gardens. We got to that traffic light, and at that traffic light, it was a red light, and she was just like, I know you have my money, and I would like it back. I'm not going to hurt you, but I would like it back. And, in that moment, I thought back to things that I'd messed up on in the past. Excuse me. I thought back to things I messed up on in the past, and always when you make a mistake, you get whipped. And so I was like, I'm going to get in so much trouble for this. But I couldn't lie no more because she clearly just said, I know you have it. And I just want it back. And then I didn't respond to her. And she didn't force a response out of me, but she continued to drive me to the basketball game. She dropped me off. And then the next day, Saturday morning, I went into my room. Actually, I was in my room. I lifted up my mattress. It was in between my mattress and my bed. So I lifted up my mattress. I pulled out the money. I went in my mom's room and I gave her the money. And I remember her saying, thank you. And she then said, no matter how much it is, don't ever steal. Whether it's 5 cents or $5. If you see something that isn't yours, don't touch it. And I remember walking out of her room confused, I thought back to the first time I ever stole and got caught, the $10. A few weeks later, I was whooped really bad in the kitchen. And, it wasn't a nice afternoon. And I just thought to myself, like, why didn't she hurt me? And I think what that allowed me to learn was it made me sit with my consequence, and it made me really think about what I did. And I actually felt so disgusted that I could even do something like that. And truthfully, since Friday night, February 2016, I have not stolen anything before. And it's because my mom decided to not whip me. And I think I give her a big thank you. Like, she doesn't know it, but I give her a big thank you for how she dealt with that situation, because she could have whooped me. And I guess looking back, maybe it wouldn't have made a difference. But me sitting with what I did made me really reflect on it and made me realize, like, that isn't right. And before going any further, I just wanted to shout out Charlie Banger, who created the theme song for the podcast. This is just a snippet of his track.
Gravity, ayy, gravity, lay, gravity, hey, gravitated off.
If you haven't already, give the song a play. Getting back to what I was talking about now, in terms of how that occasion of me stealing changed my perspective. It puts me in a position now to be able to speak and say to someone else, like, as easy it is and as tempting as it can be to want to steal, I'd encourage whoever you are, don't ever do it. And if you've done it already, like, stop yourself and try work for what's yours. It's easy. It's so easy to want to just take a shortcut. It's so easy to want to just take something that you didn't work for. But as weird as it sounds, it's much better to work for what's yours. It's much better to not take a shortcut. It's much better to be able to look back and say, this is how I got that. And to know that you worked for it, and to not be able to say, oh, I stole that. And the other thing as well with stealing is, like, when you steal something, you can't acknowledge the fact that you have it. It's something you hide. No one steals and then goes and promotes and be like, oh, look at this, because you know how you got it and it wasn't right. And so you hide it. But when you work for something, it's okay to tell someone how you got it, because you know you got it honestly and in a good way. And so I guess at the same time, it's also a negative thing to yourself, because you can't be proud of that. And it's not something you go and tell everybody, because you know it's embarrassing. And so whoever you are, again, work hard for what's yours. Don't steal. And just to touch back on that thing again, story from the past. The first time I ever stole was $10, and I got caught. The last time I ever stole was $100 and I got caught. And it makes sense that it happened in that order. And what I mean by that is the fact that when I was in year 1 or prep, when I first got caught, if my mom had responded without whooping me, I was young. I was a kid. I wouldn't have understood, I would have most likely have done it again. But because it was in year 11 that she responded like that, I was at a more mature age. I was at an age where I could look back and look at the times that I've done the same thing, had never been caught. And here I am being caught again. But now I'm not being punished for it. And so I was really able to analyze the situation, see where I went wrong, see why I shouldn't have done what I did. And I guess it worked. It worked for her not to punish me. And I guess, again, to you, the listener, work hard for what's yours and don't steal. Thank you for listening. Before checking out, I wanted to say thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe and follow Gravitated Arts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Plus, hit the notifications bell to be notified every time Gravitated Arts drops.
Did it for my team, for my peace, for my G, for who need it. Showing up on days that I couldn't see a reason. Showing up on days I would rather lay and sleeping. Showing up on days I disconnected, they connected, now we gravity, ayy, gravity, lay, gravity, hey, gravitated off, gravity, ayy, gravity, made.